Hello everyone. Today in this video we discuss about the multiple linear regression. Okay, we already discussed about the linear regression. Linear regression means the two variables are related along the linear relationship. That means the two variables are related along a straight line. That is called the linear regression. Okay, multiple linear regression. Here multiple linear regression means here multiple variables. That means more than two variables are involved in a linear relationship. The linear relationship between the three or more variables is known as multiple linear regression. Okay, if suppose I am taking three variables x1, x2, x3. x1, x2, x3. Okay, so the regression line of x1 on x2 and x3, that means that the x1 is depends on x2, x3. What is the relation between these three variables? Okay, the regression line of x2 on x1 and x3, that means the relationship between these two variables, that means here x2 is dependent on x1 and x3. Similarly, the regression line of x3 on x1 and x2, that means here the relationship between the two variables, here x3 is depends on x1 and x2. Okay, so what is that relationship? How to find that? How to establish the relationship between the three or more variables? First we discuss about the linear relationship between these three variables. Okay, here the regression line of x1 on x2 and x3. The regression line of x1 on x2 and x3. That means here x1 is depends on x2 and x3 and these three variables are related along the straight line. Okay, what is that relationship? Here x1 is equal to, okay, a into x2 plus b into x3 plus c. Okay, this is the regression line of x1 on x2 and x3. Here the three variables are related along the linear relationship. Here what are ABC? Here ABC are the unknown constants. Okay, how to establish this relationship for the given values of x1, x2, x3. Okay, suppose here I am given some values for x1, x2, x3. Okay, based on the x1, x2, x3 values, how to establish this multiple linear regression of x1 on x2 and x3. That means we have to find the ABC values based on the given x1, x2, x3 values. Okay, this is also this relation is established based on the least squares method. Okay, in least squares method, first we form the linear equations. What are the linear equations? Okay, the linear equations for these multiple linear regression line of x1 and x2, x3 is, first of all we apply the summation. Summation of x1 is equal to a into summation of x2 plus b into summation of x3 plus c into summation of 1, that is c into number of variables, so number of observations. Okay, this is the one of the normal equation for this equation. Next, here x1 is dependent on x2, x3. So that means here x1 is dependent and x2, x3 are independent variables. So the next two normal equations are formed by multiplying this linear regression line with the independent variables. First of all, we multiply this linear relationship with x2, x1, x2. Both sides multiply with x2. Okay. So a into x2 into x2, that is x2 square plus b into x2 into x3 plus c into x2. That means now we multiplying this equation with x2 on both sides. We get this equation. Now taking the summation on both sides. So summation of x1, x2 is equal to a into summation of x2 square plus b into summation of x2, x3 plus c into summation of x2. This is the second normal equation. Next, third normal equation. Okay, again we multiplying this regression line or multiple linear regression line with the another independent variable x3. That means we multiplying this equation with x3 on both sides. We write x1, x3 is equal to, just multiply with x3 on both sides. x1 into x3 is equal to a into x2, x3 plus b into x3 into x3 square plus c into x3. Now taking the summation on both sides. So summation of x1 x3 is equal to a into summation of x2 x3 plus b into summation of x3 square plus c into summation of x3. This is the third normal equation. Okay, here we have three unknown constants a, b, c. We have to find those a, b, c values and then substitute those values in this relation. Then we found then that is the multiple linear regression line of x1 on x2 and x3. Okay. For finding the a, b, c values, we form the normal equations. We have here three normal equations. Now substitute all these summation values here. Summation of x1, summation of x2, summation of x3, and n is the number of observations for the given values. Okay, summation of x1, x2 is multiply x1 and x2. Okay, by adding all these values, we get summation of x1, x2. Next x2, summation of x2 square, summation of x2, x3, next summation of x1, x3, summation of x2, x3, summation of x3 square. So now substitute all these values and solve these three normal equations. We get the values of a, b, c. And then substitute this a, b, c values here. That is the regression line of x1 on x2 and x3. In the similar way, we form the regression line of x2 on x1, x3. Okay, the regression line of suppose x2 on x1 and x3. What is the multiple linear regression line of x2 on x1 and x3? That means x2 is dependent on x1, x3. So we take that relationship as x2 is equal to a into x1 plus b into x3 plus c. Here a, b, c are the unknown constants. Okay, for the given values we found this relation. That means we have to find the values of a, b, c. Here also same, we form the normal equations first and then solve the normal equations. So what are the normal equations? First we are applying summation on both sides. That is one of the normal equation. After that another two normal equations are given by given by multiplying this equation with the independent variables and then applying the summation on both sides. That means here independent variables are x1, x3. Okay, first we multiply with x1 on both sides and taking summation. That is one of the normal equation. And next to multiplying x3 on both sides, we get another normal, and then taking the summation on both sides, we get another normal equation. Okay, those three normal equations we have to solve for getting the values of a, b, c. Okay, substitute this a, b, c values here. In the similar way, the regression line of x3 on x1 and x2. What is the regression line of x3 on x1 and x2? x3 is equal to a into x1 plus b into x2 plus c. This is the relationship between x1, x2, x3. Here x3 is dependent on x1 and x2. Okay, first we are taking the summation on both sides. That is one of the normal equation. After that we multiplying this relation with the independent variables. Here what are the independent variables here? x1 and x2. First we multiplying with x1 on both sides and then taking summation on both sides. Then we get one of the normal equation. After that we multiplying this equation with the another independent variable x2 and then taking the summation, we get another normal equation. Solve these three equations for getting the values of a, b, c. Okay, this is about the multiple linear regression. Okay, we discuss a small problem on this. Here I am taking the values for x1, x2, x3. x1 1, 2, 3, x2 2, 4, 6, and this is 1, 8, 27. Here I am giving the three values for the x1, x2, x3. Now we form the multiple linear regression of x3 on x1 and x2. x3 on x1 and x2. What is the relationship between x1, x3 and x1, x2? Here x3 is dependent on x1, x2. So we write this relation as x3 is equal to a into x1 plus b into x2 plus c. Okay, here we have to find the values of a, b, c. Okay, after finding the values of a, b, c and then substitute these values here, that is the relationship between x2, x1, x2, x3. Okay, here first we take the normal equations. What are the normal equations for this relation? First to take the summation on both sides. Summation of x3 is equal to a into summation of x1 plus b into summation of x2 plus c into summation of 1, that is c into number of observations. That is the one of the normal equation. Next, another normal equation is multiplying this relation with independent variables. First we multiply with x1 on both sides. After that we take in the summation. Summation of x1 x3 is equal to a into summation of x1 square plus b into summation of x1 x2 plus c into summation of x1. We multiplying with x1 on both sides and then applying the summation on both sides. This is the first normal equation. Next, another normal equation. That means we multiplying this equation with another independent variable. Here the another independent variable is x2. Multiplying with x2 on both sides. x2 x3 is equal to a into x1 x2 plus b into x2 square plus c into x2. And then we are taking the summation on both sides. Okay. These three are the normal equations. Now we have to substitute all these values. What is summation of x3? What is this? 28 plus 8, 36. 36 is equal to a into summation of x1. That means add all these values. 1 plus 2 plus 3, 6. Plus b into summation of x2. Adding all these three values, we have to get 6 plus 6, 12. Plus c into, what are the number of observations? Here we have 3 observations, so n is equal to 3. So 6a plus 12b plus 3c is equal to 36. This is one of the normal equation. Next, in this equation we have to substitute the summation values. Summation of x1, x3. Just we multiply these two variables and then taking the summation. x1 into 1, 1 plus 2 into 8, 16 plus 3 into 27, 81. Okay. 17 plus 81. 98. Okay, 98. So summation of x1 x3 is 98 is equal to a into summation of x1 square. Just a square of these values. 1 square is 1, 2 square is 4, 3 square is 9. Okay, 1 plus 4 plus 9 is 14. Plus b into summation of x1 x2. Just multiplying x1 and x2. Multiply these two variables. And then add all these values. 1 into 2, 2 plus 2 into 4, 8 plus 3 into 6, 18. 10 plus 18, 28. Plus c into summation of x1 is 6. Next. This is one equation and this is the second equation. Next. Take the third equation. Summation of x2, x3. Now we multiplying x2 and x3. Okay. 2 into 1, 2 plus 4 into 8. 4 8s are 32. 6 into 27. 6 20 is 120 plus 42. 162. Okay. 34 plus 162. That is 198. Okay. So 198 is equal to a into summation of x1 x2. It's already written here. Summation of x1 x2 is 28 plus b into summation of x2 square. Just a square of these values. x2 square. 2 square is 4, 4 square is 16, 6 square is 36. Now add all these values. 20 plus 36, 56. Plus c into summation of x2 is 12. Okay. Now we solve these three equations for finding the values of a, b, c. Here we are using the calc for solving these three equations. Okay. How to solve these three equations using calculator? First we take the calculator. In this we solve the equations. Okay, first we put the calc in equation form. In this we are taking the three unknowns. Okay, after that we are entering the coefficients of a, b, c and constants. First we take the first equation coefficient 6, 12, 3 and 36. Next 14, 28, 6, 98. Next 28, 56, 12 and 128. Now solve these equations. We get the values of a, b, c and then substitute this a, b, c values in this relation. x3 is equal to ax1 plus bx2 plus c. Now we have to substitute ABC values here. We get a regression line of x2 on x3 on x1 and x2. In the same way, we have to calculate the regression line of x1 on x2 and x3 or x2 on x1 and x3. Okay, thank you.